Yo, what's good, people? Welcome back. So today we're going to be doing something slightly different. We're going to be taking a lens as a developer on Solana's blockchain. So this is going to be a very new series that I'm going to be starting. So I'm going to be walking through the documentation of Solana. So I myself am also pretty brand new to the ecosystem and trying to build some things, some applications on Solana or other blockchains in general, but trying to get a foundational understanding of this. So we're going to be doing something interesting by looking at the documentation, taking notes, and having a discussion. I guess a one-way discussion, but we can kind of make it two-way if you are commenting. So make sure you comment in the comment section. But anyway, so we're going to be looking at Solana Cookbook. So if you go on solana.com, and I should be sharing my screen right now actually, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, dope. I'm sharing my screen. So if you go on solana.com and you go to the first tab, you see developers. The first thing in the learning section is Solana Cookbook. So when you click on that, you're gonna go here, and this is Solana Cookbook. Basically what it is everything you need to know about Solana. It's a lot of resources. At least it gives you the foundational understanding. So we're gonna get started here, and basically, we're gonna be looking at the core concepts in this video. So there are different parts of this, and we're not gonna talk about it all in this video. So we're gonna be starting here by talking about the core concept and the foundational, as you see, building blocks of Solana that are good to know for development. We're gonna dive into core concepts, and the first core concept here is accounts. So I am also going to be showing you my piece of paper here, as you can see, where I'm going to be taking notes. So the first thing we have here is accounts. So what are accounts? Accounts within Solana are used to store state, and they are essential for Solana. Accounts are used to store data. Each account has a unique address. Each account has a max size of 10 megabits. So because we are storing some type of data, we need to have a size which each account can sort of carry. And then we have PDA accounts that have a max size of 10 kilobytes. So PDA accounts seem to be holding smaller amount of data than regular accounts. So, and they are very distinguished in the way that it's put out. PDA accounts can also be used to sign on behalf of a program. So PDA accounts carries out actions as well on behalf of a program, which is a different aspect of Solana. Account size is static, meaning account size is not going to be changing. Once the account size is set, it is set. Account data storage is paid with rent. This is an interesting concept. We're going to talk more about that. Default account owner is the system program. So let's take a closer look at and unwind all of those facts that we just read. So data accounts store data. This is very straightforward and simple. Data accounts are storing data. Program accounts store executable programs. So data accounts is just readable information. Program accounts are actually executing on a command. Native accounts that indicate native programs on Solana, such as system, stake, and vote. So if you're familiar with Solana at all, you know system is the traditional way that we are sending transaction between one wallet to another wallet. Stake is when you are locking some type of token inside some program for a certain period of time for XYZ reason, which could be you want to yield returns, or you want to be in DeFi, or you want to do a lending protocol, whatever the case may be. The third piece is voting, which is super important, especially for a lot of DAOs that you'll see now, especially when it comes to token structures. If you have a certain amount of maximum token supply, so you have 1 million tokens and Jimmy has 1,000 tokens, so based off of the total supply of tokens, Jimmy is able to vote with his tokens compared to the rest of the pool, in a sense. So there are two types of data accounts. So we have system-owned accounts and we have PDA accounts, program-derived address accounts. Each account has an address, usually a public key. So that's the long string of random things that I'm going to show you here on my screen. So this is the DZ3S random string that we see up there. So that's each address, the public key. You should notice, very important. So the first field, or I would say architectural piece of an account is LAN ports. So LAN ports, if you're familiar with Bitcoin, Bitcoin has Satoshi, and that is basically a 0.00001 Bitcoin, essentially. So it's the smallest piece or fraction of a Bitcoin that you can own. It's the same thing in Solana, but it's called a LAN port. So it is the smallest fraction of a Solana or a Sol. The second piece of each account has an owner. Each account has a program owner of that account. It has an executable, and that is whether or not this account can process an instruction. And then the next piece is a data. So this is in form of a byte array, and it's stored on the account. And then we have a rent epoch, and then that is the next epoch which the account will owe rent. Rent means that you are paying for having this account on the network. So there are a few important ownership rules. Only a data account owner can modify its data and debit LAN ports. So essentially what this is saying is only the data owner can modify what is stored in the account and debit the LAN port, meaning spend the LAN port. Anyone is allowed to credit LAN ports to the data account, meaning anyone is allowed to send some type of Solana or any other tokens to that data account. The owner of an account may assign a new owner if the account's data is zeroed out. Program accounts do not store state. This is interesting. For example, if you have a counter program that lets you increment a counter, you must create two accounts, one account to store the program's code and one to store the counter. So a program account is not allowed to store any piece of data. It's just running a command. So in order to interact with some type of data piece, you have to attach that program account to a separate account that is holding that data and pass that into the program account if you want to do a set of instructions inside an application, for example. So you have a data account, you have a program account, so you have the data and you have the command you want to run. So then in the application, you put those pieces together. To prevent an account from being deleted, you must pay rent. Yes, to be on the network, you have to pay rent. Storing data on accounts costs Sol to maintain and is funded by what is called rent. If you maintain a minimum balance equivalent to 2 years of rent payments in an account, your account will be exempt from paying rent. Yes, so just when you're programming, keep this in mind and make sure you keep at least 2 years of rent so that way you don't get charged at all. It's a means of collateral to make sure the network stays intact. You can retrieve rent by closing the account and sending the LAN ports back to your wallet, so you can get your money back. Rent is paid during 2 different timings when referenced by a transaction once an epoch is elapsed. A percentage of rent is collected by accounts. A percent of rent collected by accounts is destroyed while the rest is distributed to vote accounts at the end of every slot. So validators, for whatever reason, doing different transaction validations on the network, whenever they help you validate your transaction and put it as a block on the blockchain, they are distributed rent for fees in a sense for whatever that transaction was costing. If the account does not have enough to pay rent, the account will be deallocated and the data removed. If you don't have rent, your data or your accounts will be closed, essentially. But that shouldn't be a problem anyone should really have to worry about, because it's pretty tiny fractional fees when you're dealing with Solana. If you have a problem with this when it comes to mainnet, you can basically work on DevNet and get a lot of free Solana on DevNet or testnet, and you don't have to worry about that. This is just giving you the understanding of the groundwork or the foundational architecture behind how the system of Solana was designed. So you don't have to necessarily worry too much about it. Rent is not going to be like this crazy thing, but it does exist in the way that the architecture is set up. So you should be aware that it exists. Now that video pretty much wraps up accounts. So stay tuned, we're gonna talk about the next piece, which is programs. And this is more about how we're going to be carrying out different things on the blockchain. So, you know, we have an account. Each person kind of has an account, so we need to do something with these accounts. So we're gonna talk about how we're doing things on the network with each of our accounts. So stay tuned for that next video, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
Don't speak to no one but the facts to the